All right. So today we want to talk about listings, and I've had a lot of inquiries with agents over the past 30 days about getting their first listings, getting new listings, talking about listings. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity, just kind of from soup to nuts, let's talk about listings. I'm going to bring up a sheet that is in the shared drive, and together we're going to add to it. We're going to tweak it, and we're just going to go through the steps. What we're not going to do is getting super nitty gritty, right? I want to high level kind of make sure I check the steps. You should, and you need to get very granular, especially as you build out your own process. And Sharon has actually been doing something like that. For her and her business, she's established a checklist of things that she does so that her delivery of her services to her clients is the same every time. Nothing falls between the cracks, and she can make sure, especially now that she's working with a VA, to make sure that her step-by-step process is sound, right? And I think you guys can all do that as well. But in order to do that, first, you need a general framework, right? I don't want you reinventing the wheel. Take this general framework and we'll add to this together. But some of you may not even know this is in there. So we have the process in there for buyers, which we can tackle another day. And we have the process in there for sellers, and we're going to talk about that today. Sound good? I'm going to share my screen. And okay. So first of all, I want to show you, we're working on this sheet to replace the one that's currently in the coaching drive. This is one document that is going to have all of the required docs for a seller, for a listing, as well as for a buy side, right? So can everyone see that? Right, this has been in there. Some people have asked, where do I find this? What's it called? And when we went to DocuSign from the previous system, some of them were renamed and whatnot. So we've got to start with the list side, the library. This is where it is, the folder that's in DocuSign, because I know that there's different folders in DocuSign. So some of these documents are saved in different places. So library basically means the folder. This is the form name, the actual name that it's in the system. So you might hear me say, oh yeah, just a listing agreement. Well, this is it's actually called the exclusive right to sell contract with admin. Okay. So that's what it's called. And then in order for compliance and to get your, everything in the up and up, this is who has to sign it. Right. So we've got the list side docs, and then these are required for when the contract, for when it closes in order to be paid. You need to make sure you have these signed or uploaded, and who needs to sign these. For a buy side, this is where those documents are. For instance, from the MLS listing for a seller's disclosure and lead-based paint, this is from the MLS listing of the property that you're helping a buyer purchase. So you'll get those from transaction desk.
Mine. Did you have yours already?
Oh, hello? Oh, can you mind muting yourself? Thank you. And then again, who signs it, and then additional docs on the buy side. I got to figure out the yellow ones are ones I'm missing. I don't know what the name of this folder is, but these are common things that people are finding that they need: a regular addendum, contingency, satisfaction, inspection satisfaction. So we'll finish these and put them in there, and then we'll update this as necessary. So this will be in the coaching drive for you guys to reference quickly to replace the two separate ones that we previously had. Questions? Good. We talk about this in launch, but as a refresher for those of you who've been with us for a little while, I want to make sure that you easily have these things available. All right. So in regards to what I wanted to talk about today, KWA coaching, agent access. That's the folder we're going to go into, right? There is all these different folders, and the steps are going to be in the launch. So launch is here. It's in session 5, step-by-step process, seller side. Okay, so this is what I just talked about, required listing documents that'll get replaced. I'm just going to open it up. Those of you that want to open this up, you can open it up. Don't modify anything, or you can just watch the screen. Okay. So let's just start. And again, this I think Sharon and I kind of didn't really create this. This was kind of already in there. So I do think that it has some things maybe that I can add to build it up if there's any steps that you guys think are pertinent that are missing. Again, it's not the hyper micro, right? Because when you just say practice presentation, I want you to do a whole bunch of stuff. When it says perform the listing appointment, I mean, that means doing the CMA and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to get super granular on that. I just want to keep it high level, but it's more so making sure that, you understand the general process, not just to do it yourself, but to communicate to your clients of what to be expected. I think clients should always know what's going to come next. And as I'm doing right now in a client guide that I'm building for my clients, I'm actually combining a buyer presentation, listing presentation into one document that I'm calling it my client guide. And I'm going to put all of the steps in that. And I'm going to leave that with them or give that to them at the beginning of working together, whether that's a buyer consultation or a listing presentation. And I want to keep that. I'm going to give them that to them so they can always reference that, right? So they can, they can always feel free to call or text me, but I want them to know this is what they can expect next. Simultaneously building it out into command. So when I do those things that I committed and said I'm going to do, they get notifications, right? I'm going to get credit for the things I'm doing behind the scenes, both on the buy and the sell side, right? So we can do that via command. But to start, what do you have to do? Number one, of course you can cheat because it's right here, but in order to have a listing or to work with the seller, you've got to generate a lead. Then what?
Convert it.
Convert the lead. What do we mean by convert the lead? I know that seems so simple.
I'm under contract, right?
Not under contract yet. Jump ahead. Convert it from a lead to a...
Get an appointment.
Yes. So what do we typically call the first step, right? A lead, and then what?
Customer.
Not yet. You haven't signed anything.
Contact.
Prospect.
Prospect. That's what I was looking for. Yes. Yep. A lead. You get leads from your contacts, then you convert them to a prospect. You meet with them, and then you sign them, and you become a customer, client. But we need to convert the lead. So you need to set the appointment, right? And that's right here. Set up a listing appointment. I know it seems so simple, and this could probably be multiple pages right there, but the expectations should be set that you're going to sit down and discuss listing their property with them. I'm harping on this for a second because here's what I did early in my career. I got a live one on the phone who said they were considering selling. And what I found is I wasted a lot of time meeting with someone who just wanted to know what their house was worth. They weren't a seller. They were a nosy, someone who just was curious of what their house was worth. Now, listen, we talked about this the other day. You have either time or money. Newer agents have time, but not money. So by all means, go on a listing appointment if you don't think that the client is ready, willing, and able to sell. If it helps you with practice, right? Get the butterflies out. But when I say set up a listing appointment, I'm going to vet them. I'm not just going to say, great, see you Tuesday at 2. Like, I actually want to make sure that I'm asking some questions, right? And this is also going to help me in preparation for the appointment that I'm going to go on. Does that make sense? What are some questions that I would ask, guys?
Why are you selling?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great one. Why are you selling? Where do you want to go? How quickly do you want to be there? I want to verify all of the stuff about their home. I've had people come to me and ask to do a CMA, and then I pull up PRD and I say, oh, it's 3 bedrooms. And they say, oh, I think it's 4. PRD is not often right, guys. So if you're doing a whole CMA and basing your whole presentation evaluation off of a PRD, you might be sorely mistaken when you get to the home and you realize it's 4 bedrooms, right? So verify all these things. And we've got it, right, Sharon? We've got a checklist in there as like a pre-appointment, I think.
There's the questionnaire.
The questionnaire, yeah. So ask a whole bunch of things to present. So I'm going to gather all of that stuff so I can go back and I can do my market analysis. So I'm going to set up the listing appointment, right? I'm going to hopefully give it for enough time where I'm going to be prepared, but it's not going to be weeks. It's going to be days, right? Or the next day. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the CMA. again, I'm not going to focus on doing the CMA today, but if I have the time, right, I'm going to go drive by that house. If I don't know that neighborhood, I'm going to make sure I drive by that house ahead of time, right? Not creep, so they don't know I'm the one sitting in front of their vehicle, their house, but I want to drive the neighborhood. I want to make sure that I notice anything that is worthwhile. I want to see if I see any for sale signs in there, right? Of course, I'm doing a CMA, but what do a lot of agents not do? They don't put pending riders on. So a regular client might think the houses are for sale. So I want to be prepared. I also am looking for any for sale by owner signs, right? Because I don't want to be blindsided when they say, yeah, this guy's trying to get 300 and I didn't know about that because it's not in the MLS.
I would add to, if you have the time and you can schedule a showing for any comps that are right there nearby in the area, go walk through the other houses that they would be competing against. Makes you an expert.
Absolutely, Sharon, especially if you know that that's a very close comp, or that you're going to have to justify where this house isn't worth what they're asking or what they sold at, right? Because of date updates or this or that. It speaks volumes when you can say, yes, I've been in that home, right? Let's fast forward because I can see us already getting behind schedule. Time of appointment, show up early, right? I don't mean really early. I mean like 5 minutes early. If you're really early, drive through the neighborhood. I think being super early is just as disrespectful as being late, because people are getting their house prepared. Many people are trying to clean and get ready. I'm going to walk up to the door. I'm going to ring the doorbell. I'm going to back off, right? Especially in COVID world. I'm going to assume I have a mask. I'm going to put a mask on, right? That's just me personally. You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to say, hey, hi, Shelly. Hey, Shelly, Matt Marsupian with Keller Williams. We have a 2:00 appointment to meet. It's 2:00. I'm excited to get to sit down with you. Right. So I'm reinforcing the fact that I am on time, who I am. I may, if I've never met them before, maybe hand them a business card or have one out. Right. This breezes through time of appointment. Right. Ask for business, get paperwork signed. Right. This could be a whole class in itself. Right. Listing presentation. We're not going through this today, but ideally a listing presentation is going to take however long it needs to take. Some people would say 30 minutes. Usually mine could be an hour and a half. I've gone a lot of different ways with how I conduct a tour, but the most important thing is that you drive it. What I didn't say earlier, which I want to make sure you emphasize, is that when you set an appointment, make sure all the people that are decision makers are there. I'm never going to a house to do a listing presentation with the wife when the husband's out of town or at work. That's not any disrespect to husband or wife. I'm not going to do the same to the husband while the wife's not there, right? I want both the decision makers there. I'm not going to do my dog and pony twice. And no one can make a decision if they don't have their spouse or decision maker with them, okay? So I'm going to make sure that I attack that on the phone prior to setting the appointment. So I'm not, again, presenting to one half of the decision makers.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Quick question. I just had that situation last week. When I set up the appointment, the gentleman said his wife would be there, and I get there and she's not there. Would you just not do it, or?
Well, that's a tough one. Did you, based on how much time is set between the two? Let's say today it's Thursday. I set an appointment for Monday. I might call Monday morning and just say, hey, hope you had a great weekend. I'm looking forward to meeting with you. I'm not asking them, are you still good? I'm assuming they are, but I'm saying, I look forward to sitting down with you and Beverly today at 2:00. I'll see you then. And if he says, well, Beverly can't be here or something came up, oh gosh. Oh no, I completely understand. I would, with all due respect, Phil, I would really appreciate sitting down with you and Shelly, because I like meeting and talking with both of the owners. If we move this to Tuesday, would she be able to be there? That might not necessarily 100% alleviate what you just said, but I would try to not cancel, just try to reschedule at a time. And I would try to emphasize why.
Gotcha. Okay.
At the end of the day, though, I mean, again, getting in the door and at least meeting with them, it's not bad. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I just would prefer to sit down with both people.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. And then I also like just setting the expectation that I'm going to have your undivided attention. I mean, I know people have kids and things, but I've been there. I went to a listing presentation and sat down with the husband, and the wife was making dinner. That was super awkward. So, you know what I mean? I might attack that ahead of time and say, hey, what time do you guys eat dinner? let's set a time for before or after, or on maybe Saturday after breakfast or something like that. So just call out the elephant in the room.
Matt, I have a different situation, which
Yeah,
is
Doug.
more of a cultural situation where there is a husband and wife, but the house is only in the husband's name, and only the husband is, I guess, making the decision. I guess so.
That's not
Kind of
uncommon.
unheard of, but for me,
No, it's not uncommon. And in fact, I know the situations because I've been there, and the decision makers are there, but the wife is passive and she's not at the table discussing business. I might not agree with it. It's not what I do or how I act, but I respect them. So I am speaking directly to the husband because that's how culturally they work. So,
I just have them only the husband show up to the house, and not the wife. So, but he says everything's going in his name, so I just kind of let it fly.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay attention to what name it's going in. I would almost like ask a question like, oh, is there anything that's important to your wife about your new home? Like you form it in a way of not who's it gonna be. Like my house right now is, I think it's just my wife's name. Doesn't mean we both don't own it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, you want to find out, like, is he going to have her walk through and say that she likes it too? I mean, just because she's not officially the decision maker doesn't mean that behind closed doors she doesn't have influence in what's going on.
Yeah, it might
So
just not be visible to the public. Yeah.
Right. It's more about figuring out who is influencing.
Gotcha.
Because what if it's a parent? New buyers with parents, have your mom and dad come with us when we come to the house then, because that's the worst. You've been showing a bunch of houses, kid loves the place, and then dad comes through and says, it's a piece of garbage, and you just wasted all your time.
Gotcha.
That's a whole class for buyer side, making sure that you up front understand who the decision makers are. And sometimes it's not the people that are signing. Okay, so let's pretend you got the listing. Now I'm on all listing appointments, I'm going to bring all the paperwork. Some coaches, some agents, some will tell you don't leave unless you have it signed. It's not the way I operate, but if you're hard nosed like that, great. I bring copies of everything though, because I want to leave it with them and I want to go over it and I'm going to highlight all the areas that we're going to fill in and I'm going to leave that with them so that if they want to review it, they can review it. Most of the time when I get actual paperwork signed, I send it electronically. So if I've left paperwork with them, right, and we talk about certain parameters and then I follow up and they say, yep, we're ready to go forward. Great. I'm going to shoot that over to you electronically, right? Same stuff that I left you with. I'm going to fill in the price that we decided on and this and that. Okay. But once you get everything signed, then go run in motion. Learn from me, guys. Don't do anything until you get the document signed. I know it seems so simple, but I lost. I don't know if anyone's heard this story. I had a seller. It was a referral to me. I was excited to get the ball rolling. I scheduled photos and video, and she, she was like, yeah, I'm gonna sign the paperwork. I just, it was a computer issue or this or that. I mean, after I spent a ton of money on everything, she essentially went Fizzbell on me, and it was a real kick in the ass. And I learned I'll never do that again. So again, until you have their commitment in writing, don't waste any money or time on anything because it will burn you. If they're ready to go, there should be no reason they shouldn't be able to sign everything. Okay, and if they're reluctant to sign, stop, slow down, and say, hey, it sounds like we need to address something. Let's talk about it before we move forward.
Can I ask one more on that one?
Of course.
Sorry. So this most recent house that I sent you guys a text on where they're trying to decide if they're going to do one more update or not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously that's going to change my price point. So I can't really do a signing until I know what the price is, right?
Well, not necessarily. What Doug's talking about is back in this part. And this could, again, we could probably through a listing appointment. I kind of combine my listing appointment / a making notes about the property / staging consultation. I'm not going to give them free advice, if you will, but I'm going to be making notes that I'm going to try to implement once we sign and we agree to work together, right? And that is, here's the things that I want you to focus on doing in order to get this house sold, right? I don't just give them a list at the listing and say, hey, call me later because I just worked for free. But I do say, hey, I've got ideas in mind. I'm not looking to spend thousands of dollars, but I do think I have some simple things, right? So whenever my listing presentation, it says staging, doesn't mean I always bring in an expensive person. It could just be me walking around the house room to room saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I think any of you guys could do that because you just put you put your hat on, your buyer hat, and you look at it from the eyes of a buyer, right? Now, in some cases, I've actually brought in a stager, right? Or I've suggested improvements or whatever, but I'm not setting the expectation that, hey, if you do this, I'm going to be able to change the price that I just told you your house is worth. I'm telling you to do things in order to make your house sell quicker and for the most amount of money, not necessarily more money. Okay. You have to be very careful about telling someone, hey, if you paint this room, we're going to, increase the price $5,000. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, because like Doug, in your situation, the house isn't selling for what you're asking because of the condition already. So what you're doing is proposing to better the condition so that you can get the price you're already asking.
Okay. And well, I guess that's kind of where I was at, but I mean, there was like a $5,000 difference because they were going to do like a $10,000 update. To me, I didn't want to do the update because I think it's going to sell the way it is.
I always set the expectation. It's like, listen, you're not dollar for dollar. You're not going to get a return on things.
Right. And they understand that, but I just don't know, I don't have the sale price because if they do the cabinet or the cabinets and the countertop, they said they wanted to go $399. Otherwise we're going to keep it at $395. But regardless, my whole point is I haven't done the contract yet because I don't have that section filled out.
Well, I mean, you can put $1 in. If they decide to change and list at a different price and you're okay with it, you can just revise it. But if you don't have a listing agreement signed, they could go sign with someone else. So I would get that. I would just put something on it as a placeholder.
All right.
Right. So you've gotten them to sign everything. They've decided to move forward with you. Awesome. And this is where a lot of the moving pieces go. Yep.
Quick question. I have a process question only because I just went through this.
Sure.
And I was looking at the form video with Pete. And one of the points he made was the profile paperwork needs to be filled out with the client there on site. So we can't really send it ahead, right?
When you say profile, it's like the real comp,
real comp.
Yeah. So I'm going to differ with him a little bit on that. This is where I start personally. I go back to my office or wherever, and I create the partial save. Okay. So, and I don't want to jump ahead because I want to focus on number 2 for a second.
Okay.
But I am going to go through everything with them, especially when I'm filling out the disclosures to make sure that I have the accurate information, but I don't necessarily have everything at that time to fill in for the real comp entry form. Now, most of that, if the house has been sold in the past 10 years, you're going to actually very easily have the details for, like the room dimensions and this and that type of exterior. But I'll get back to that in a second. But I'm going to leave that appointment or wherever they've decided to move forward and we sign everything, being very clear of what the next steps are. Okay. So I always try to work backwards where I've discussed with the seller and we're on the same page in terms of a list date. Right. And then we work backwards from there. Meaning I'm not setting the expectation for signing documents that your house goes on the market tomorrow. That's not how I operate. I like listing houses on Wednesdays. Does anybody know why I would like listing a house on a Wednesday?
Yes. Why?
Well, so when you list a property, you know that you've working with buyers, right? You've got this you've got this MLS portal, right, set up. Excuse me. So the moment a property goes live, people might get that email or the next morning, right? And Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, people are busy with life, right? Kids are in school, you're back to work, you're doing all this stuff. In the middle of the week, you're approaching the weekend, you're looking at what are we going to do this weekend? We're going to go look at houses, right? So I don't want it to go live on a Saturday because I may miss people who planned to go see, but I don't want to do it on a Monday because people aren't necessarily focused yet on later in the week. Now you can make an argument right now because it's such low inventory that you can really list a home at any day and time and you're going to get showings. So don't delay for the sake of delaying, but that's kind of where I would focus for me. I'd say, let's list on Wednesday. Okay. So next Wednesday is this date, right? That's why I want to have everything done. In order to go live on Wednesday, I've got to have the photos done by Monday. you're right, maybe at the latest, because it takes 24 hours to get them done, right? I honestly probably sooner than that. So, but if we're going to have photos done on Monday, that means that you've got to do all the things for prep between now and over the weekend. Is that something that you can do, right? So I'm talking through that timeline of what that looks like with them. So we're on the same page and they understand what's going to happen when. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Good. So if they have to have staging come in, or they have to have repairs done, or they have to do something, right? Even if it's just, I had the client this fall, just, hey, I understood they didn't want to put any money into the house. I said, okay, great. Let's just declutter some things and let's power wash the deck and let's clean up the landscaping a little bit, right? It was elbow grease stuff. And then we, so we had a plan, all right? You're going to do this by when? And I had commitment from them. Okay, great. I'm going to schedule photos now for that day and time. Okay, great. So I can do that, right? So we were on the same page and I kept up on them, right? So it wasn't, oh, just let me know when you get around to it, right? When you've got a lot of things planned, if they're not ready or they don't deliver because you didn't set proper expectations, it can derail everything. And for me, when I go live on the market, I'm ready. Like, I'm not going to put up a house with crappy photos just to get it listed, because you only have one shot at going on the market. So I'm going to make sure that those timelines are work with them. Now, perhaps you're signing a listing agreement where you're not going to start for a month out. That's fine too. Just work backwards from there. You can have the agreement that you sign your listing contract different than the date that the property is going to go live.
Great.
I'm going to have
last question.
Sure, go ahead.
Just to go back really quick on number
Yep.
4, under time of appointment, ask for business. What paperwork are you just doing the exclusive contract at that point then?
Yeah, exclusive right to sell, the disclosure, seller's disclosure, lead-based paint, everything that I would need.
Okay.
Yep, everything. Yep. As opposed to a buyer, it would just be an exclusive buyer's agency contract. With seller, it's all.
The full package. Okay.
Yep. You can immediately, once you get everything signed, you can create a partial save. Basically, it's a rough draft. So you're creating it in the MLS, and then you're adding to it, and you're tweaking it, and you're fixing it, and you're adding photos to it. So everything is ready to go when you're live. And for me, what I do is that I PDF the partial save. Once I have it completed, I upload it to have them electronically review and sign. So I don't like having my client review it after it goes live. I actually want to send it to them ahead of time. Say, hey, look this over. Does that look good? Sherry, do you do something similar?
Yes. What I was going to say is that is also what you can submit for compliance rather than having them sign the whole real comp 5-page listing form. Just the MLS ticket, stick a little electronic signature at the bottom, and they're showing that they agree with the way you're marketing the home.
Why I do it that way is because when you fill out the MLS input sheet, it doesn't automatically input an MLS. So you're doing double work. So for me, I just input the listing through RealComp, partial save it, send it to them. They say, oh no, I have a gas fireplace, not a wood burning. Okay, let me change that, revise it, resend it to them.
So if I can interject as well, I have, especially to homes that I haven't been in often or I don't know them well, I will take that RealComp form to my listing appointment. And as I'm walking through the house, because I may forget, oh, do they have ceiling fans? Do you have a sump pump? And so I'll just walk by for myself. It's a way of having a notebook. And I'll go through and I'll check through the stuff that's on there so that I don't forget something. And it eliminates possibly having to go back to them, 15 times. You always typically have to go back and ask something, and that's okay. But the most information I can gather in a session, the better, which is the same reason why, just get everything signed at once. You don't want to just keep going back to them every couple of days. Oh, and I need your mortgage payoff thing. And oh, is there a homeowners association? And oh, just get it done.
Absolutely. Yeah. You should always have your listing presentation, whatever you're going to do. Sometimes I just bring out my laptop, but I have my notepad and I put the date of my appointment. And then I put, the address so I don't forget in my notes, and I'm writing stuff down. They say, yeah, we did our patio in 2010. Great. I'm writing 2010 patio. It might not be pertinent right then, but it's going to be important later on. Right. So I don't look like a clown when I'm like, hey, what year was your roof done? I know we talked about it. You want to make sure that you're taking notes. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The the form that you were talking about on the MLS that you use for listings, is that pretty much just like a kind of like a checklist of what the property has and all that other like
It's not.
kind of go, I'm sorry, yeah, I was like, I'm trying to like understand everything. I'm like, okay, wait, what?
Go to listing resources.
It's this. It's a giant sheet.
Listing documents, right at the top, at the very top.
And that's something that the seller will have to fill out themselves also too, right? You're just using it as a
No.
guideline. Just
No,
to,
it's a template. It's really a template.
okay.
This is what it looks like.
Residential. Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
And whatever you check, the boxes that you check will show up in a listing, you know.
Oh, I see. So that's basic. Okay, now I understand. So that's what agents use to put on the MLS,
Yeah.
like all the information
So-
of a home.
Exactly. So this says foundation slab, like
Mhm.
on this form. Yeah. On this form, it's foundation material. Block, brick,
Okay.
poured, stone, wood, other, crawl, slab. But you only check slab, and that's what only shows up in the real count. But the problem is when you're filling this out, whether it's handwritten, of course, or even electronically, it doesn't automatically input to the listing. So I just don't like doing things twice. Now, if you take this with you and you want to make sure you're dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's, by
Yeah.
all means, take it with you. Fill out everything.
Okay.
Some of this stuff's already going to be in real comp if this house was sold recently, though. You can't have over amount of notes. Okay. So
Okay.
And when I take it, I'm not filling out the directions and the side of the street and the East Coast, because I already know
No.
all that. I'm
Yeah.
using it more for like, if you like this summer, not even that, but exterior features, roof material. Like if I have a question, or is their basement poured or is it block? Like
is it
it's
gas
those
stove?
weird things, right? It's that weird
Yeah.
little stuff that I don't want to forget about.
It's the small details, I guess, because you're covering so much at once that, yeah,
Yep.
it might slip through your mind. Okay.
Exactly.
If we miss anything, like the weather prevents us from saying, or if they forget, can we go back and update that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. I would never want to update a listing though after you go under contract because, that's kind of changing material facts. But yeah, I mean, even during your partial save in MLS, you can change anything. After it goes live, hey, actually, we decided, or it's a gas stove. I don't, for whatever reason, we missed it. Okay, great. I'll just go in and change it. It doesn't matter, right? Yard sign. I have panels that I own, I had made, and then I work with a company, American Signs. They go and they install them, right? They install the post, they hang my sign up. It's usually 24-hour turnaround. You can do it yourself. You can, whatever it is that you want to do. So I'm not going to focus on that, but I'm going to have the yard sign installed prior to it going live. So ideally, if I'm going to go live on Wednesday, I want my sign installed on a Monday. I think there is, according to RealComp, actual rules where you can't have a sign installed too long before it goes live. Yeah. But you will find you will get sign calls, especially when they see the sign and they can't find it online. They will call you. For me, I have my cell phone number on the sign because I want them calling me directly, not the office. All right. But I'm going to have the yard sign installed. Some sellers don't want a sign, and that's okay. But I'm going to say, listen, it's one more thing to help sell your house. Put the lockbox on the house. I don't do that until right before we're about to go live. We use Century locks. You guys can get them for free once you have a partial save in the system. Gmar will give you one for free. They may give you gruff and say, this office has enough of them. That's BS. Push back. You're entitled to them. If you want to go and get 10 of them, they might give you something because they might say, well, you don't have 10 listings, but you will be able to at least get one. If you're ever in a bind, one of us can probably reassign one to you. So don't worry about that. You're going to have the Century Lock app. You're not going to be able to assign the lockbox to the property until you, at minimum, have a partial save. Okay. So if you have a partial save in the real comp, you will be able to go into your Century Lock under My Lock Boxes, assign. You'll be able to pick the property. And again, it'll only show up if it's in the MLS as a partial save minimum. Okay. And then you're going to want to make sure you know what serial number lockbox you have assigned to that property because you're also going to enter it in real comp. This is where it says start marketing. I mean, you could start this really at any point in here. It's coming soon, right? Now we've changed some things, or the rules have changed some things. So you can't necessarily do like 2 weeks before coming soon. But when I talk about marketing, I want you guys to think about this. Like, I want you posting something on your story when you're at the listing appointment. I want you posting something when the sign gets installed. I want you documenting the process so people see that and they know that you have you have business and it's something coming up. It's not necessarily like a coming soon ad, no price, no address, click here, which violates MLS rules for the coming soons, but you are promoting yourself as having something coming along up. That makes sense? Door knocking, just listed. You can do all of that stuff, right? Door knock the neighbors. Hey, I don't know if you knew this, but I just signed, the listing documentation. This property is going to be going live on Friday. I know that a lot of neighbors would love to pick their own neighbors. Do you know anybody who would like to be yours? Right? Oh, no, we don't. Oh, how long have you lived here? What do you love about the neighborhood? Actually, we hate it. Oh, okay. You want to sell? So you're using it as a segue, right? Listings are a great opportunity to get more business because you're using it as something to parlay. You're ready to go. You've been marketing it, signs in the yard, lock boxes on the door. You've conferred with the sellers. You've set expectations with them. Listen, when we go live, we're probably going to have showing requests, Mr. Seller. And I want to set the proper expectations that you're going to be able to accommodate those and be out of the home. I know this seems like such a simple thing to do, but don't discuss listing a house on a Wednesday or Thursday if they said, yeah, we're having family in town and we're going to be having everyone over on Saturday and Sunday. I mean, that makes no sense, right? I almost tell people, especially with low inventory right now, is there somewhere you can go so you don't have to like pick up and leave? Because if we don't set particular hours, the showing might be between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., right? And we'll get some scheduled the day before or 2 days before, but we also might get some scheduled the day of. So if it's better for you, just plan on being somewhere, right? But you're setting that expectation. Showing time. For those of you who use showing time, you schedule a showing request, right? When your buyer says, I want to see 123 Main Street, you go and show it, showing time, either the app or online, and you say, I want to show 123 Main Street at 2 p.m. On the flip side, when you do that, it notifies, right, the listing agent as well as the seller that there's a showing request for 2 p.m. on Saturday or whatever time that you did. The seller can then hit Y or N, yes or no, to confirm or decline, right? Now, you as the listing agent, when you're handling that side, you have to input in showing time all of the people that you want getting those notifications. So their cell phone number, their email address, right? And whether or not they're getting just notified that there's showings or if there's they have to approve it. So if there's a husband and wife, set them up, both of them. So husband knows what's going on or wife knows what's going on. If they want that, right? You have to be very clear about that, right? And again, set the expectations that I don't want you declining any showings. We want to be able to accommodate all we have. Of course, things happen, but we want to be able to accept all of them. If it's a vacant property, you can actually set it so it's go and show, which means they would get notified, but they don't have to approve a showing, right? That's a vacant property. Or let's pretend that I've already discussed and my sellers are going to be out of town or they're going to stay with grandma and grandpa or whoever. Let's just set it as show and go. So they don't need to approve anything. If you know you're not going to be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, let's just put it as show and go. Okay? Yeah.
Just a comment, mistake on my part with this last listing I had is not to assume. I told the seller we were going active and we started getting requests for showing. She said, well, we're not ready to show today, are we? I said, well, yeah, we're going active. She didn't understand that going active meant that was ready to show. So I guess that's a mistake on my part, but.
I love the fact that you own that, right? You absolutely, you can't ever assume. Our clients don't do this. They've never done this before, right? They don't know. And we get, that's why it's really important to slow down and talk about what that means. Some people thought, I've had a call, they freaked out because the sign was installed and they thought, I'm not ready to show it yet. I had to step back. You know what? My bad, Cindy, whoever it was. Cindy, I forgot, or perhaps perhaps I forgot. It's never you didn't hear me. It's always I forgot. That the sign was installed in order to drum up interest. But as you and I talked about, there's not going to be any showings allowed until Friday at 9 a.m. Right? And you will get notifications from them. Is that still okay? Friday at 9 a.m. Okay. All right, great. So you can make now a coming soon feature. So we used to just be able to, it was nothing and then it was active, right? Coming soon now is up to 5 days, I believe. And what's cool about coming soon is that business days. So it goes in everyone's inbox as a new property, but they can't schedule a showing for it, right? So it's basically your pre-marketing. Now, if I make a list, today's Thursday, if I do a coming soon, I could do coming soon active tomorrow, right? I can actually do that in the system, or it could be up to 5 days. But people right now, even though it's just coming soon, can still schedule showings starting at the day that I've set in Real Comp that it's going to be active. Does that make sense? So I can put it as a coming soon on Wednesday with not being active until Friday, but someone could still schedule a showing on Wednesday, but not until the actual showing on Friday. Okay. So it's basically like a period of time that's like blocked out until then. Right. So that way it also gives people time to schedule showings. That's why it's beneficial to use that coming soon.
I'm sorry. I just want to make a comment. There was an agent that I called her, and this was like the day before we requested to show the property, and the next day we haven't gotten any messages. So I called the agent to find out, and the agent's like, yeah, I know, I'm just having a hard time contacting the seller. And she said she'll call me back, but she never called me back. And they missed out on showing, well, we never showed the house. And a bad part on.
Yeah, don't be that. Don't be every time you guys from a buyer's agent standpoint see terrible it's the way someone acts on the list side. Just don't do that when you're the listing agent, right? It would make everything better. But yeah, unfortunately, you have to be prepared too. Don't ever have a listing go live where you're going to be just gone for the weekend. It's going to be all hell breaks loose. Phil can attest to that. John can attest to that, especially if it's going to be a hot property. You're basically working all weekend. Even though you're not showing the home, you're receiving calls, you're fielding offers, you're working, right? You can't set up showing time until it's the listing becomes coming soon or active. You can't set up showing time. So be ready to do that as soon as you activate that. And you also can't upload the seller's disclosure in the lead-based paint until it's coming soon or inactive for whatever reason. I wish Real Comp would let us upload that ahead of time, but you can't. But that is something part of your checklist that you want to make sure you do. As soon as you go active or coming soon, you upload those documents because agents are going to be looking for that. They're going to be pulling those documents. They're going to want to be discussing those with their buyers. They're going to need them to present an offer. So make sure that you're uploading those. And that's through Transaction Desk from the link from Real Comp. Okay, it's super easy. You just have to have them saved on your computer as a PDF. So once you go coming soon or active, just be ready for the onslaught of showings, right? And the first few, you'll see them come across you. Maybe call your buyer. Hey, just want to make, or your seller, I'm sorry. I want to make sure you received that. That's the way it looks, right? Did you get it? Did you understand how it works? All you have to do is hit Y, right? So you will be able at any time to go into showing time to see all the showing requests. And if there's any that are still waiting on, you can follow up with your seller, right? They might get overwhelmed. If they're not like checking texts, if they're not the person that has their phone glued to their hip, they might not be looking at it, but time is of the essence. And again, it's best to set expectations with this quicker or sooner than later. I've had situations where I had a seller that didn't have text. They were old school and I had to field it was like it was back in the day. I had to actually call them. Hey, I got a request for 2:00, right? So excuse me, what I started doing is I just said, I'm going to set in showing time, no showings except between 2 and 5. And I'm just going to tell the seller, be gone between 2 and 5. And then anytime a showing request came in, that was my instructions, right? So you have to, you're going to earn your money, especially if it's an elderly or if it's, they've got dogs at home that they're trying to leave. It can get hairy.
What if there is a young person, like a under 18 that is tech savvy or whatever? Can they use the alert system or no?
If they haven't signed the listing agreement, I'm not counting on them for something like that, in my opinion.
Okay, so don't
Same, yeah, the same.
engage.
Well, it's if they want to help mom and dad out with it, sure, but I'm not going to be relying on a 16-year-old to make sure mom and dad know that there's a showing request.
Yeah.
That would be my personal opinion.
Okay.
Same goes with showings. I would never want a minor at a home. Not sellers shouldn't be at properties right now for showings anyway, but they have been. Okay, I want to keep moving through really quickly. Hold an open house. Ideally, in the world you're holding an open house, you're going to do it the first weekend it's up. Follow up with seller. It says weekly regarding. Usually, it's not even lasting a week. If you set up a showing time for feedback, after an agent shows your property, they're going to get an automatic email that says, "Hey, what's the feedback on it?" They're going to probably get that up to 3 times. I think is the default. Some agents fill out feedback, some don't. I'm going to be all over it though. I'm going to be calling. I'm going to be pursuing it very politely because I want it, and I want honest feedback. Because if I think the property is overpriced, I would want a bunch of agents telling me that they think it's overpriced. That way, it's going to help me get that price improvement with my seller, or that it smells like cat pee, or whatever the case may be. But I'm going to get real. I'm going to get the feedback. I'm going to get the feedback because my seller expects it to. This probably has to be a 2-parter then. When offer is received, present to offer to seller. I mean, that's very simple, but if you start receiving a few offers or getting a bunch of calls, you may have to set the expectation that, hey, we're going to collect all offers and we're going to actually have a deadline set. So I'm going to sit down with my seller and I'm going to review all the offers. So you have to get yours in by this day and time. It all depends on the situation though. If you get one offer on a Friday and then you don't have any other showing scheduled for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you better really look at that offer that you got on Friday, right? Bird in the hand. While the property, even while I'm negotiating an offer, I'm still showing the property. I'm still allowing showings. Until it's signed, I am not going to take that. You never know. I could be in the middle of negotiating an offer and have another one come in that's just perfect and jump to that one. You just never know. So I'm not going to, some sellers will say, oh, we got that offer. We can stop showing it. No, not until it's executed.
So
Okay.
Matt, in that case, you will still leave it as the status as active, and you're not going to change it to pending, or maybe go to ABO?
Not until it's executed. Okay. And only ABO if my seller is okay with that. Because pending means it's under contract, no showings. ABO, it should still be available to show, and that you're accepting backup offers. If your seller does not want to show the property anymore, you got to mark it pending. Okay. But again, I'm not going to do either of those until I have a fully executed purchase agreement. Not just, oh, we're good. We've said, no, it's in my hand, signed.
Right. So what about waiting for the inspection results?
Well, after it's fully executed, you are in a period of technically pending or ABO. But again, only be ABO if your buyer, or if your sellers rather, are okay still showing it. And they understand what that means. Mr. Seller, if we keep it as ABO and we continue to show it, if someone comes in with an incredible offer, we can't kick out the first person. We still are under contract with the first person. Right?
Right.
But then Matt, isn't it a good idea to always have like a backup offer in case of something? Can you do that, or even when it's under a purchase agreement?
I don't write backup offers. If my buyers are interested in a property and it comes back on the market, then I'll write an offer. I don't want a backup offer because all I think that it's doing, in my opinion, is making sure that the first one doesn't fall apart, because the listing agent's using that as ammunition when the buyers come back and say they want an inspection or this or that items completed. Plus, I don't want to lock my buyers into something. Now, I don't know. This is my personal opinion.
That's a tough one because inventory is so low right now. Mm-hmm. If your clients are in love with something, for me, I would write a quick backup just so that my clients know that, I'm trying to do whatever I can for them. But I get what Matt's saying.
We talked about fair housing stuff at our meeting on Tuesday. This is a good example. I mean, I would never want to be told like, oh, the client said, don't bother. If I said, hey, listen, these are your options. This is what you can do. It is ABO, right? If it's pending, they might not even accept a backup offer. But if it's ABO, my buyers understand what that means, right? I'm going to write that up and submit it. So let me be
I
clear
would,
on
I
that.
would never write a backup offer if it was pending. It's only if the listing agent has clearly communicated to me. Usually it'll be a circumstance like, this one might be a little shaky, but if you want to give me a backup, I'm like, okay, yes. But if they're communicating to me that everything looks good, then I'm more kind of like where Matt's at, that.
Yeah, then don't do it at all.
Right.
Or in a multiple offer situation, if I'm number 2, I might say, yeah, we want to stay in that slot.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Okay.
May I ask a question?
yeah, of course.
Sharon, why would you not recommend writing a backup offer? Because I just did that yesterday. I wrote a backup offer while
No. It was
yeah,
Matt
right.
that was not. But I probably would not, if the listing agent and everything they were indicating to me was that the offer that they already had was really strong and everything looked good, then I probably wouldn't go through the work of doing that. But to Matt's point, you also have to communicate to your client everything. And if you're telling your client, hey, this other first offer they have looks really strong, chances are it's not going to fall apart. But if they still want to put in a backup, then I would, because I'm serving my client.
Now let's focus on the list side, which is what we're talking about, right? If I'm a listing agent, right, and I'm helping a seller and the seller accepts an offer and then someone else comes along and says, I want to write a backup offer, I'll take that, right? Because what's that going to do?
Yeah, that's kind of like how I meant it, like in the seller side. Sorry.
When my current buyer, that I'm representing seller, I've got this offer, I've got a backup offer that's really strong, right? And then they start getting shaky and they say, well, the inspection, I'm going to be very clear with that agent and say, hey, I've got a backup offer, right? I'm going to have fear of loss, right? I'm going to say, we're not dicking around over minor things because I've got somebody here that's willing to pay even more or better, or I've got someone else in line, right? When people sense that they might say, oh, okay, I really shouldn't, I don't want to lose this house. It puts you in a stronger position. All right. Like I said, this is probably going to be a 2-parter, but that's okay. I want to make sure I answer these questions. You're getting all the agreements. Yeah.
How committed are you so if you're a buyer's agent and you write a backup offer, how committed are you? Because what I'm thinking is, let's say you write it and then all of a sudden you find another house that your buyer wants to buy.
Yeah, you're not committed. I mean, even if they accept it, you have typically a due diligence period where you can say for any reason I'm out.
It's not bottom line.
And it's not bottom line. Now, even if you do bottom line it and it's like you write the language that's contingent upon the first offer, whatever, you just have to provide in writing, hey, the offer submitted on blah, blah, blah is hereby rescinded. And then you move forward with another one. Yeah. You don't really have to worry about too many cases of buyer being really, until their due diligence period or their inspections or their is up. You don't have to really worry about a buyer being too committed. Now, once a seller commits to sell, they can't really change their mind, right? Now, they don't have to agree if a buyer comes back and asks for something, but sellers can't just change their mind if they have an agreement stating that they're going to sell the property, if that makes sense. You've got all the documents in, you've got everything signed and bottom line. Again, if you do your negotiations back and forth via writing, that's fine, or text, but make sure it's signed and initialed. Time is of the essence, guys. I will say this time and time again. I don't care if it's Saturday night and you just discussed everything and you got it buttoned up at 9 p.m. because guess what? At 9:01, someone could change their mind. So I am working hastily to get everything signed and initialed, right? Not just verbally, but actually signed, right? And I never really, I don't ever like it's coming. That makes me super nervous. You get under contract, you're a little bit in the waiting game. So I was talking about Phil about this. He's like, what do I have to do now? Besides ordering your title on the sell side, which you may have already done previously if you ordered pre-title, you're waiting for the buyers to complete their due diligence and inspections and whatever, right? So if you have a property in an HOA, you may need to provide the buyer's agent with a copy of the homeowners association deed and bylaws, covenants, restrictions. But they're going out and they're doing their due diligence. Remember, in a contract, purchase agreement rather, the due diligence isn't just an inspection. It's for them to check out what the house looks like at night because they don't want to be on a dark street. It's for them to verify what elementary school it goes to, for them to verify that, the water is city water, city sewer. to verify there's no special assessments coming, to verify all the things that they would want to verify, right? In addition to having it inspected. What can they inspect? They can inspect anything, right? They can have a private home inspection that looks at the front, the back, the inside, the outside. They can have a separate person that inspects the well and septic. They can have somebody that inspects the, I don't know, an arborist to look at the trees that are hanging over it. Whatever they want to do within their period of time, they're allowed to do. And for them to be able to walk away and get their money back, assuming that the PA is clearly written, for any reason during that period of time. Your sellers have to understand this, guys, because it's not done until it's the inspection period is up. And even then, it still has to appraise.
Hey, Matt, you said something about the title for uploading a title for the seller. What did you mean by that?
So title insurance is going to be ordered on the buy side and the list side, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to order title insurance on the sell side, which is simply with Legacy Title, it's placing orders at legacyclosings.com. You're just if you're using Legacy, you're ordering title insurance because you've agreed in the purchase agreement to provide the buyer with clear title. You need to provide that, and the seller has to pay for a seller's title policy. Seller's title policy is based on the purchase price of the home. So you're ordering it title. So basically what they're doing is looking through the chain of who owns it, what's owed on it, and clearing it up so they can provide for a fee a clear title to the new owners. So your sellers can't come back and say, or a contractor can't come back and say, hey, that seller didn't pay me for work I did. Or the city can't come back and say, hey, they didn't pay their taxes, you owe us now. Nope, those are cleared up at closing. And the seller has to provide a title policy for that. So most of the time these days we're doing split closings. Seller uses a title company, buyer uses a title company. Each one closes individually and they bring all the stuff together. So sometimes your clients are signing a little bit of both paperwork. Sometimes you both use the same title company. When it's a cash transaction, there's only one title company involved because there's no title insurance required on the mortgage side.
And you want to do that the same time you're basically putting the property in live and real comp, right? Once you submit all that paperwork, you want to make sure that you have that title insurance.
I typically order title after I go under contract. Now, if that deal falls apart, you're not going to have to do it again because you still need title insurance for another buyer. So you're not wasting anyone's time or money because nothing's due until it closes. If I go to a listing appointment and it's like, well, this property was owned by my brother and my sister, and now it's just my brother, I'm going to order pre-title because I'm going to try to clear up that ahead of time because there might be something weird going on that would limit the ability for the people that say they want to sell it, right? I can talk about that kind of some other time, but in the normal chain of events, I would order title after I go under contract. Buyers are going to do their thing. You're going to want to be super fixated on the dates, right? And every contract's a little different. So, right, Phil, we had a purchase agreement and it said the first date was the day following the day that it was fully executed. So if the paperwork's fully executed on the 28th, the 29th was day one, right? So if the buyers had 7 days of due diligence, is it calendar days? Is it business days? When does that start? When is that up, right? So you want to make sure that you're adhering to the purchase agreement.
And not to interject confusion, because I know that we always go in circles about this. If there was no counter, if the offer is as it was written and the seller agrees to it, that date of agreement is the date the offer was written. If there's a counter and anything's changed as it goes back and forth, that date, that day zero, is the day it was bottom lined. So make sure you understand what that distinction is.
And it could be one day, but it could be the make or break So if you ever have any question on it, give Pete, myself, Sharon a copy of the purchase agreement and say, hey, what am I looking at here? They submitted this offer this day. We signed it this day. What's the effective date? What's the date the clock starts, right? Because it can be confusing, especially if you're going back and forth and initials or changes or this and that. So yeah, I'm gonna ditch the rest of this. But
because the rest is offers and negotiations. That's its own animal.
Yeah.
You know.
So we'll follow up and then button this up and then work on a different subject. But it was important to talk about this thing because as you see, we went through probably 20 bullet points, yet I talked for over an hour. So this is just the general framework and can get much deeper. And you're going to want to build out the processes that you want for each, both for your own knowledge and for your education of your clients. So hopefully this was beneficial to you guys. Let me know if you have any questions about anything, as always.
Print this list out, have it next to yourself. So when you get to this point, you can remind yourself and don't feel overwhelmed, right? Because you have that there as a guide. Okay.
Is this helpful?
Very helpful.
Yes, it was very, very helpful.
Yes, thank you.